The first time I heard the whistle, I was alone in the woods, drunk and completely lost. It wasn't loud, it wasn't aggressive, it was casual, like whoever made it wasn't worried about being heard. I remember thinking I should run. Instead, I stood there, staring into the trees, trying to convince myself I was imagining things. Because if I wasn't imagining it, then something had followed me off the road and into the dark. And all I could think was, I should have just stayed at the bar. This was the night I learned why you don't walk home alone, especially through a dark forest. This is the long walk home. My name is John, and this happened during my first year of college. I'd just moved away from home for the first time. I grew up in a small town where everyone knew everyone, where the streets were familiar and getting lost wasn't really a thing. But college was different. The city was bigger than anything I was used to. More people, more noise, more places that all looked the same if you didn't know where you were going. That night was supposed to be simple. My roommate told me he'd drive. He had a car, knew the area better than I did, and said he'd stay sober enough to get us back. So I didn't think twice about it. We drove to a bar downtown, just one of those places everyone went on the weekends. Cheap drinks, loud music, bad decisions. I didn't really know my limits yet. Didn't know how quickly alcohol could sneak up on you when you weren't paying attention. The bar was packed. Sticky floors, people shouting over music. I remember thinking I'd just have a couple drinks. That turned into shots. Shots turned into beers. Beers turned into that warm, fuzzy confidence that makes you think you're doing just fine, right up until you're not. At some point, the room started to tilt just a little. Not enough to panic. Just enough to make me realize I was drunker than I meant to be. My roommate was having a great time, laughing, talking to people. No intention of leaving anytime soon. I, on the other hand, just wanted my bed. I remember checking the time on my phone and doing the math in my head. It hadn't taken long to drive to the bar, maybe 15 minutes. In my small town brain, that meant it had to be walkable. So I told him I was heading out early. He tried to talk me into staying, said he'd drive me back later, told me the night was still young. I waved him off, told him I'd be fine. That confidence should have been my first warning. I stepped outside into the night air, the music cutting off abruptly behind me. It was late, but not dead quiet. Groups of people laughed as they moved between bars. About 15 minutes into my walk, a car slowed down beside me. 3 guys were inside. Windows down, music blasting, laughter spilling out into the street. They started yelling things at me. I don't remember exactly what they said, just that it wasn't friendly. Not joking. Mocking in that careless, drunk way that feels more aggressive the longer it goes on. My chest tightened, that instinctive feeling that tells you this situation isn't going to end well if you let it keep going. Then the car suddenly pulled away, engine revving as they disappeared down the road. But they didn't feel gone. I stood there for a moment, listening to the sound of their laughter fade, my heart still racing. That was when I realized I didn't want to stay on the road anymore. Ahead of me, just beyond the streetlights, was the edge of the forest. The city wrapped around it. A massive stretch of trees with dirt paths cutting through, connecting different parts of town. I'd never walked it at night, but the moon was bright, and the idea of getting off the road, away from those guys, felt like the safer option. So I crossed the street and stepped into the trees. Almost immediately, the city faded. Car sounds dulled. Voices disappeared. It felt like stepping into a different world. The moonlight filtered through the branches, painting everything in silver and shadow. Enough light to see the path ahead, but not enough to see far into the woods. At first, it was quiet in a way that felt peaceful. Then I heard it. A whistle. Short, sharp, almost playful. I stopped walking, pulled my phone up, shining the light behind me. Nothing. No one on the path. No movement in the trees. I stood there for a few seconds, listening. The forest was still. I laughed quietly to myself. I was drunk. This place was full of animals. Wind did strange things in trees, so I kept walking. A few minutes later, another whistle. This one sounded closer, not louder, just nearer. I stopped again, my heart beating faster now. I turned slowly, phone light scanning the brush. Still nothing. That's when I heard movement to my right, something shifting through leaves. I tensed, holding the light steady. Footsteps, slow, careful. My mind jumped immediately to the car, the three guys. The idea that they'd followed me in here. The movement got closer. I braced myself. And then a deer stepped out into the moonlight. It froze when it saw me, eyes reflecting pale white. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then it bolted into the trees. I let out a shaky breath and laughed again, louder this time. That had to be it. I told myself to relax, but as I continued walking, the whistles came back. Not predictably. Sometimes there were long stretches of silence, long enough for me to think it was over. Then a single whistle from behind me. Later, another from the left, then one from the right. Each time I stopped, each time I turned, there was nothing, just trees. That's when the doubt really crept in. I started questioning how drunk I actually was. Was my mind filling in gaps, imagining patterns that weren't there? Or was someone out there, moving just far enough away that I couldn't see them? I checked my phone and opened maps. According to the screen, I was heading in the right direction. Relief washed over me. Then I heard another whistle. This one came from directly ahead, right along the path I needed to take. I stopped cold. My stomach dropped. It didn't sound accidental. It felt deliberate, like something had positioned itself there, like it was guiding me, keeping me inside the trees. I checked my phone again. The road wasn't far. That's when I decided I was done walking. I started moving faster. Then I heard footsteps. Not mine, behind me, heavy, rushing through leaves. I didn't turn around. I ran. Branches whipped at my arms. The path blurred beneath my feet. The footsteps stayed close. Too close. I could hear something crashing through the brush, keeping pace with me. I burst out of the forest onto the road and stumbled onto the pavement. I spun around, heart pounding, phone light aimed at the trees. Nothing came out. The forest stood silent. I didn't wait. I ran the rest of the way home. By the time I reached the dorms, the sky was beginning to lighten. My legs ached. My throat burned. My roommate was already back, asleep. If I'd just stayed at the bar, if I'd just waited, I wouldn't have gone through hell trying to get home. I never found out what made those whistles. Maybe it was the guys from the car, or maybe it was something else entirely. All I know is this: what I thought would be a simple walk home turned into something much longer. And I never walked that forest again.